The story of Moses, the most important person in the Old Testament. The story of Moses is one of the greatest narratives in the Bible. It's actually also in the Torah. The Quran tells it to. It is a story of history and of faith, filled with miracles, great leadership, and God's deliverance of his people. Let me walk you through it in just a few minutes. Moses was born at a time when the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt under Pharaoh. Now, Pharaoh was afraid of the growing number of Israelites, so he ordered all Hebrew baby boys to be killed. So Moses' mother, she knew that her baby boy was going to be killed. So to save him, she placed him in a basket on the Nile River. Now, Pharaoh's daughter, she found the baby and was moved with compassion and adopted him and raised him as a prince in the royal palace. And so Moses grew up knowing that he was Hebrew, but he also grew up knowing that he was also Egyptian. Now, when Moses was a young man, he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Filled with anger, Moses killed the Egyptian and then he ran away, afraid of punishment. He fled Egypt into the desert and he settled in the land of Midian. There he married a woman named Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, a priest of Midian. And Moses became a shepherd, tending the flocks of his father-in-law. Then one day while tending sheep on the mountain of God, Horeb, Moses saw a bush that was burning but not being consumed by the fire. So he went to investigate, and God spoke to him from the bush. And he revealed his holy name, Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He commissioned Moses to return to Egypt and confront Pharaoh and demand that he let the Israelites go so that they could worship Yahweh in the wilderness. Despite feeling unworthy and afraid, Moses was obedient, and God gave him signs like turning his staff into a serpent. God promised to be with him. So Moses returned to Egypt with his brother Aaron as his spokesman and confronted Pharaoh, demanding that he let the people go. But Pharaoh refused. And so God sent 10 plagues upon Egypt: blood in the Nile, frogs, lice, flies, disease among livestock, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally the death of the firstborn. The Israelites were spared from the last plague by marking their doors with the blood of a lamb, which became the first Passover. After the death of his son, Pharaoh finally allowed the Israelites to leave Egypt. So Moses led them out of Egypt, but Pharaoh changed his mind and pursued them with his army. And when Moses and the Israelites reached the Red Sea, God parted the waters through Moses' staff, and the Israelites crossed on dry ground. When Pharaoh's army followed, the waters returned and drowned them. Then Moses led the people to Mount Sinai, where they stayed for 40 days while God prepared the land for them. In the wilderness, the Israelites struggled with hunger, thirst, and a lack of faith, but God provided for them manna, which was bread from heaven, and water from a rock. At Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, written on stone tablets. This established a covenant between God and his people. However, when Moses descended from the mountain, he found the Israelites worshipping a golden calf. In anger, he broke the tablets, but later received a new set from God. Then, because of their disobedience and lack of faith, the Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years until all of the people who had complained and doubted in their hearts died. Now Moses continued to lead the people with patience, but when God commanded him to speak to a rock for water instead of striking it like he did in the past, he disobeyed. And God told him that because of that, he would not enter the promised land Canaan himself. But before his death, he appointed his successor, Joshua, and climbed Mount Nebo, where God showed him the promised land from a distance. And there Moses died at about 120 years old. The Bible says that God himself buried him, although no one knows the exact place. So let's think about this for a second. Moses was the baby who was saved from the river, the prince who became a shepherd, the shepherd who became a prophet, and the prophet who became the deliverer of his people through God's power. He is best known for delivering the Israelites from slavery in Egypt and for receiving the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. As a lawgiver, Moses received and delivered the law that governed Israel for many centuries. As a prophet, he spoke with God face to face, more than any other prophet before or after him. And as a deliverer, he led his people from slavery to freedom. In the Bible, Moses is called the greatest of all the men God raised up. Moses is a pivotal figure not only in Judaism, but also in Christianity and Islam. He is considered one of the greatest prophets in all three faiths.